On the Hagi one, he's a technical player, Hagi. I always think that there's a place in a team who play against packed 10-man defences for a player like Ianis Hagi, who's got that wee bit of something different. I think the part he's gained that lets him down is when you're playing against the 10-man defences, they're looking for a long ball forward, and you need people that can get back and are willing to do the hard yards, but also get back in a timely manner. I don't think Hagi's got that side of his game. I think sometimes the game passes him by when it goes long ball. He's one that I would rather keep a Ianis Hagi than, say, a Tom Lawrence, probably. Hagi will be on a bit less wages, I would say. I'd rather have a Hagi than a Lawrence, but when you start comparing a Hagi and a Cantwell, who are similar players, you would probably rather have Cantwell because he's a bit more mobile and get a bit more about him. But it would depend on the fee for Hagi. Like, what are we going to get back on? What are you going to get back on? What are you going to get back on him? What do we spend on him? $3.5 million. He's not exactly had a great season across in Spain there. He's not exactly set the header alight. So what are you going to get back on him? And is it at that point, is it worth keeping him as an option for certain specific types of games? Personally, it would have to be more or less making your money back for me to consider it a good deal for us. But then it depends. Does he want to be a bit part player who only plays against maybe your Dundees and St Johnstones and St Mirrens where you're playing a packed defence, or does he want to be the star of the show playing in old firms in Europe and where I don't think the game's really suited him?
Kieran, on that then, I mean, is Ianis Hagi one of these, because of the name, he will always get interest? There's consistently the reference to him going, Galatasaray are showing an interest because obviously his dad, etc. He's got 2 years left in his deal. It was actually probably one of the smart bits of business I think Rangers done, and actually, extending his contract just to protect us ever so slightly. Where are you on Hagi? Is it time to maybe just cash in and use some of that funds to help with what is going to be a giant rebuild, or do you think he's got a role within this Rangers team, or the way that Clement wants to play does it really work for a Hagi? Could you see a Ianis Hagi playing at Parkhead, for example, in a Clement team?
I mean, the short answer to that is no. I really like Hagi. He's very, very technically gifted, but I think I could run faster than him. I think that's his biggest flaw, is his pace, especially the position that he plays. The team that Clement's building at the moment, he looks like he's trying to build a bit of speed and a bit of go constantly. I don't think Hagi can do that under Clement's team. I really like Hagi, and not just because of the name. When he first came to Ibrox, I really liked his input against Braga, and he seemed to, when he came on loan, everyone was screaming for us to sign him. Yep. It's crazy as a fan base how 1 minute you could be screaming to sign somebody, and the next minute you say he's not going to work here. It's just how football works. I really liked Hagi when he first came. As I said, I thought that he kind of got the Ibrox culture. He seemed to know what it was like, and he was the one that was unlocking passes against, like, Hibs, for example. He was the one that was kind of making things happen when the game looked like it was null and void at one point. But in this team Clement's building and as serious as it's looking with some of the players we're linked with, maybe we're not going to get all of them, but even a couple of those players have got quite good pace. I don't think that it's going to work for Hagi. I think that they would kind of find him out quite quickly. If you press him, he can take the ball by you, but he can't do anything after that if there's no option to pass. So when you're talking about it's 2 years he's got on his deal, the only issue with that is, are we actually going to play him until let the deal run out like we've done with previous players? When he's saying about coming out today, he's saying his agent's looking, that's 100% him saying, I'm available if you want me. And it's going to be a shame because I liked him. He seemed to know what Ibrox was about and what Rangers was about. One of the few players that we've signed that actually seemed to get Ibrox. But I think, unfortunately, it's time with Rangers is up. If I could just touch on McCrory, when you were saying about the not being a number one goalkeeper, I'm exactly the same. I think as a goalkeeper at Rangers, you have to have that certain stature. You have to have that presence that your defence in front of you know that you're going to be willing to die for the badge, that you're going to do absolutely everything and you're not scared to be taking on those one-on-one moments. Yeah, he's made a few clean sheets, but I don't think he'd be anywhere near us as a number one goalkeeper. The likes of Shagger, the likes of Butland, where you've got that presence. Like McLaughlin, he may as well have been the janitor. He had no presence, so we need to sign somebody. And if we're going to bring Liam Kelly in as a backup number 2, that's frightening signs as well because he's got no presence about him either. I get he played for Rangers as a youth, but I don't feel like he would have the presence of a Rangers goalkeeper.
Yeah, it's an interesting. I think, like, I think with the rumours about Kelly, I think it's a kind of done deal that McCrory was going, and this is where this homegrown rule absolutely, I think, kills us as a football club. I think it's a ridiculous rule, but I think Rangers will probably be looking, well, actually, we can fill one of those spots by having a backup goalkeeper. I think that's probably why we're doing it. Craig, in terms of, feel free to have a discussion on Hagi. I think one of the important things with regards to McCrory and Hagi, I get the impression with Clement, I think he's been pretty staggered about the fact that as a football club, we have let so many players just run down their contract. And, if McCrory isn't going to sign an extension, then he has to go. There is no point in keeping them there for that, even if it is only 500,000. But if it's a sell-on clause, etc., like that, Hagi again, I think, falls into that kind of bracket that, if he's not going to be part of the manager's plans, let's move him on where we've got 2 years on that rather than a year, and try and maximise what we can get for him. So thoughts on Hagi would be interesting. But John Scott had sent in a question regarding another, I'm going to say youngster, but he's getting to an age, Leon King, and whether or not is it time for Leon to go elsewhere, or do we think that that's actually going to be a decision that's taken out of his hands, and actually Rangers will move him on?
Sorry, couldn't unmute myself there. Yeah, I kind of agree with what Ross was saying about Hagi. In terms of Tom Lawrence, I would keep Hagi over Tom Lawrence. I think not similar players, but they're both very lacking in pace and obviously playing that number 10 role. And I think Clement, when he's got everybody fit, he wants to play with wingers and he wants to have that kind of number 6 sitting in, maybe sort of like Diamandi and another kind of like going box to box and maybe forward. Hagi, I'm kind of in the mindset now of if we could get our money back, it would be good, because I think he's more. I don't even like going back, as you guys know, in the WhatsApp group to the Gerrard time, but I think he's more a kind of Gerrard player than he is a Clement player for me. So yeah, definitely if we could get even 3.5 million back for Hagi, I think, like, Ross McCrory, that for me is a no-brainer, given the amount of business we're going to be doing over the summer. And I think on Leon King, I think he's still, you mentioned about us being a wee bit scar tissue with injuries. I think he's still got a wee bit of scarring from the Liverpool game, a couple of years ago especially. And obviously there's nothing Gio could have done at the time because we had basically nobody there to play. But I think that, and obviously didn't really feature much until that last season at all. And I think it was part of that. It was getting his confidence back. But again, without being too harsh on him, I think he's a bit like Robbie McCrory. He's not going to be a Rangers, first team player. You mentioned about Hagi. Could I see Leon King starting at Parkhead? No. Could I see Leon King starting a Champions League game? No. Would a loan deal suit him rather than selling him? I think possibly. You look at obviously Lewis Mayo. I don't know if there was ever sorry, I mentioned buyback again, but Lewis Mayo's went to Kelly, and he was one of the star players for them, star defenders for them. So, but I mean, that could be levels.
Do you think? Can you see Leon King being a Rangers centre half?
No. And there was talk, I can't remember if it was you guys or somebody else that were talking about converting them into a right back or a defensive midfielder. I don't think that's going to happen either. I can see the thought process behind it, but for me, again, like, he probably seems like a lovely guy, but being at Rangers doesn't mean you're going to be a Rangers player, if that makes sense. I think on Leon King, and a loan deal would suit probably everybody. But yeah, for Hagi, going back to Hagi, I think I would definitely be more inclined to keep, the Cantwell, the kind of even somebody like Raskin on different players, but Hagi's someone I would move on if we could get our money back for him, or close to money back for him.
You mentioned somebody there. You mentioned Gio there, so I don't know, it didn't work out for him when he was here, but I wish him the best of luck. He's obviously landed his new job at Besiktas. That'll be an interesting one, coming up against Mourinho, etc. But I wish Gio all the best. Ross, Socrates had sent in a question, and I thought this was an interesting one about: is there a need this summer that Rangers need to go out and sign an experienced defensive midfielder, a number 6 who's got an experience of patrolling and that middle of the park? Or is Raskin the answer there now that Lundstrom has moved on? Did we see enough in that cup final to suggest that there's something there between Raskin and Diomande, and then whoever else that might make up that midfield three? What's your thoughts in terms of that need for what is a very important position within certainly Clement's team, and whether or not we've got the answer now, or do we need to go out and buy some experience for that role?
Mark Doyle's just answered the question for you in the chat. For me, you've got a boy there who could sit as a linchpin in midfield, just sit, protect the back four, and when hopefully a new right back or Yilmaz are up the park, he's naturally can play left back or right back, so he can fill the spaces, fill the gaps, and he's also got an engine where he could break ahead of the 2-8s in front of him. I think we need to make a decision on Sterling. I think we need to decide what's his position going to be and start playing him in it. As much as it's great to say he's the kit man and the right back and the left back and the centre half and the goalie and the fucking halftime raffle salesman and the mascot and the ball boy. It's funny making the jokes, mate, but I think we're at a time now where we need to really nail down a position for the boy and let him go and excel and get to play in the same position week in, week out, because he's proven it. I think in the middle of the park's where I'd like to see him, and I talk all the time on here about when you watch Ryan Jack playing for Rangers, he covered for Tavernier's defensive frailty so well because he just naturally glided out to that right back position when required. And I think Sterling could offer you the same, but we are obviously a much more intimidating physical presence in there. I really think Sterling's got all the potential, all the characteristics. If you looked up a centre defensive midfielder in the dictionary, he would be the perfect specimen. You'd see a picture of Dujon Sterling there, and I think also as well it kind of maybe negates people going, you're playing against a Motherwell or a St Mirren or a Dundee. It gives you that person just sitting 10 yards back, that a lot of the time we're getting done with centre halves trying to cover 40 yards to try and get out to header balls and getting caught under it. If you've got him in there, you would hope that he would be able to, if not go and win the balls. If a John Souttar's piling forward 30 yards, you would have Sterling who could drop in behind him and start sweeping up as well. So you're still getting that utility role, but off a one centralised position. I wouldn't be averse to playing him at right back if that's the position they choose. I'd just like to, as Alan says, I'd like to just give him his position and say, look, you're our number 6, and for big games when you're fit and ready, you're going to be in there. The same way we did with Jack. We tried it a wee bit this year with Lundstrom, but he didn't have the heart for it sometimes. And I believe going back, I know I'm stealing half the show here, but going back to the Leon King thing, I believe the B team had been playing him in that kind of defensive midfield role. But
I think he'd
again,
done it for the Scotland under-21s as well, I think.
you look at the teams coming out, you see the pictures and stuff. You look at John Souttar, Dujon Sterling, Ben Davies. Leon King still looks like a wee boy next to him, and I blame that on our fitness team. He's not bulked up any. He doesn't look as if we're trying to build him up. We look as if, and he's far too slight. We've saw that when it comes up against a decent striker. A decent striker's just lean back into him and turn them, and he's not got that physical presence. So I don't know with the Leon King thing either, but I definitely don't see him again ever being a first choice pick for Rangers. He's probably not that much younger than like a Sterling, is he? Which King 21 or something, Sterling 23. So it's not as if you're talking like 5-6 years older and a lot more experience here. And I get it, because Rangers fans, people want to tell you that Robbie McCrory's good enough to be Rangers number one, and Leon King's good enough, and we don't give boys at the academy a chance. And I agree with some of that, but the eye test itself, when you see him standing next to our centre halves or defensive midfielders, tells me that he's not built for that.